everyone, it's James.
I'm Stephanie, and we are in Salt Lake City, Utah at the Electric Bike Expo.
Right, there's been a lot of interest lately in electric bikes, and we heard there are going to be like 120 of them down here.
Yeah, 120 different kinds of e-bikes here.
So we had to come down and check it out.
Yes.
And even in the RV community, there's been a lot of interest lately.
Absolutely. Well, that's because they can be a tow vehicle. We can use e-bikes for exercise.
Yep, you can use them just as a way to get around the campground.
Right, go pick out your groceries, whatever.
So we actually made a list of things, and we have a list.
Yes.
And we're going to try to focus on some things about e-bikes that we think would be particularly of interest to RVers.
Right, so things like the weight of the bike, that's going to be important because we have to lift them up onto our bike racks.
Yeah, we're not just rolling them into a garage at night. We gotta store them, and when we store them, we want to make sure we take things off, like the electronics and the battery.
Right. So does the battery remove? That's going to be an important thing for RVers. The pedal assist, we think that's super important because we want you to stay fit and healthy, and we don't want you getting one of those e-bikes where you just push
a button and it goes. No,
yes.
that's the opposite of the Fit RV thing, so we're not going there.
Yep, so we're looking for bikes that give you a pedal assist, but don't do all the work for you.
Right, and with that, there's a whole bunch of bikes here, and we got plenty to do and plenty to ride, so let's get going.
All right, let's go check some out.
All right. Well, what we quickly learned is that with 120 different models of e-bikes there at the expo, it was really impossible to just pick one.
Yeah, it would be like picking out one RV and saying, this is the one and only best RV in the world, and this is the one you should buy.
We couldn't do that. So what we decided to do was to focus on 5 different models that caught our eye for one reason or another.
Yeah, kind of noteworthy. Like one of them had a belt drive. That was interesting.
Right. One of them folded. Just a variety of different things.
Right.
So in no particular order, here are the 5 e-bikes that caught our eye.
All right, let's start by looking at the Trek Nico.
Now, the Nico would be the women's version. The men's version would be the Trek Dual Sport.
And the cost of this one was very economical.
Yeah, I think it was only like $3,000 or so when we were looking at them there at the show.
Right.
So this is a mid-drive bike. That means that the motor is kind of between the two wheels as opposed to a hub drive where the motor is on a wheel.
And we like that a lot better. It makes the bike feel more stable.
Right. And this one, of all the ones we rode, I think was very much like a bike.
Right. It was my favorite.
Yeah. Now, the electronics are removable, as is the battery. That's important for an RVer because you're going to have to store the bike outside, but you can bring the electric bits inside.
And the weight of the bike is actually quite low. Without the battery, it was only 36 pounds.
36 pounds.
With it was 43. So I like that. It was one of the lightest ones we looked at.
Yeah, it has disc brakes, front suspension fork, and we both rode them. And it looked like it got a thumbs up from you there, Steph.
Yep, I really like this bike.
All right, so that's the Trek Nico and Dual Sport. And next up, we have the Specialized Vado.
I really like the sharp color of this one. And look, it matches me too.
Well, yes, it does. The Vado had recently been released when we went to the expo.
Right, and they are marketing this as their true commuter bike.
Right, and you can see that they've got fenders on the bike and a rack. This would be great for taking from the RV park to get a couple groceries, something like that.
You can get this in a couple different levels. There's a 3.0 up to the 6.0, and we are looking at the 6.0 model here.
Right, and this was about $6,000 as we saw it at the show.
Yeah.
So it's a mid-drive bike, and the motor on the 6.0 will go all the way up to a peak of 530 watts.
Correct. And the electronics are removable, and this is kind of interesting. It's almost like a key, isn't it?
Right. With that off, the pedal assist functions won't work.
Yeah.
In addition to that being removable, the battery is removable.
Nice.
And with the battery off, the weight is only 49 pounds.
And there's a suspension.
Suspension fork and disc brakes as well.
Correct.
And it's got a headlight, which is kind of interesting. But even more interesting than the headlight is the one they've got on the back, which is a taillight with a brake light. So when you hit the brakes, it actually gets brighter, just like a car.
That is really neat. And it definitely is a commuter function.
So how did it ride? There you are tackling the mountain.
Hill. Yeah, well, it felt really good. It didn't feel as sporty as the Trek, but it felt solid, and I can see what they mean by this being a true commuter bike. I feel like I could go anywhere. It felt like a big bus almost. I felt safe and solid on it.
Right on. All right, so that's the Specialized Vado. And here we have the Smart Motion Vista.
And this was the least expensive of the 5 bikes we looked at the show. I think this came in at around $1,400.
And this one's unique because it's foldable. That's particularly important for RVers because you might put it in a closet or a storage compartment, something like that.
Yeah.
Now, what he's showing us here is this has an internal 3-speed rear hub instead of a rear derailleur, so a little less maintenance there.
Correct.
And this is a hub-driven bike. Now, that's a little different from the other ones. It means the wheel, see there, the wheel is spinning. The wheel is driven instead of the crank, the pedals being driven.
Right, and this does have a throttle, and we don't really recommend that type of e-bike for fitness purposes, but since it did have the pedal assist, we're still showing it.
Right. Now, this bike was fairly light in addition to being foldable. I think fully loaded, the bike was only 48 pounds.
Correct.
And when we took the battery out, it got down to 39.
Yeah, so that's not bad.
No. And now he's folding the bike up here. We've reviewed folding bikes before, like a Brompton and that sort of thing. This doesn't fold quite that small, but then a Brompton won't propel you down the street at the push of a button either. So
True. It's not bad. Look at that.
It's not huge.
Right.
And I think we're getting Steph for comparison. It's very cute. Now, the motor on this one, a hub-driven motor, but it did get up to a 250-watt motor with a 500-watt peak. And now we do have some things to say about the ride.
Well, the ride was very different for me. I'm a biker, so I'm used to, a typical road bike or mountain bike. Now, look at how high I'm sitting up on this. I was a little uncomfortable, but it's just because I'm not used to the ride like that. So you can see I'm kind of shaky and not going very
My
fast.
feelings were much the same as yours. I'm used to bigger wheels, and the hub drive I found was a very different sensation from normally riding a bike.
I think you just have to get used to it, and then it would be perfectly fine.
Right. So that's the Smart Motion Vista. Again, it's unique, and it's the only folding e-bike we saw at the expo.
All right, let's move on. And now we're looking at the Tempo Carmel.
Right. Now, this one had a number of interesting technical features like belt drive and CVT. We'll get to those.
But look at my upright posture right there. That's one thing I want to talk about on this bike.
It's kind of like a beach cruiser.
It is. And if you're new to biking, this might be one you want to consider because you're upright, you're more comfortable.
You can see better. It's less aggressive.
Absolutely.
Totally get it. All right, now this did have a number of features just like the other bikes. There you're showing the front suspension.
Right, and that battery actually removes. That's nice.
And that's a good thing because this was actually one of the heavier bikes we looked at.
It is. I think it was 57 pounds,
57,
right?
So you'll want to take that battery out to get it up on the rack.
Yeah.
And she's showing now, I think, there we're getting down to the belt drive. Now, a belt drive, instead of a chain, is significant because you don't have to lube or oil a belt. So she rode that bike in white pants.
Right, and she can do that because there's no chain that's greasy. And so that makes it a great commuter option.
Right, you won't get your pants dirty with that. And now as we look a little further back, that big hub in the back, that's the CVT.
Correct. Now that's interesting. It's like my car.
Right, there's not distinct gears.
Right, and that takes a little getting used to. I rode this one, and you kind of got to work with the bike because you're not able to shift into a different gear. So it's really
not,
interesting.
Yeah, you're not dictating the gear. It's just happening.
Right.
Yeah, it was a mid-drive bike like the others. It had a crazy powerful motor. I think it peaked at like 700 watts or something.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It did.
And there's the removable electronics.
Yep, that's very good. Did we mention the price? I think it was
kind of middle of the road, like 4,500-ish or so.
Yep.
And Steph, you took a ride on it.
Yeah,
and
I did.
How was the assist?
Well, like I said, you kind of got to get used to it. It gives you a lot of assist. If you're new to biking, you would love this one because you're going to get help. It's just simple. I think that's the best way to describe this bike. It's just simple.
All right, and there we have it, the Tempo Carmel. And finally, we have this bike from Giant called the Road E.
And this one got you really excited because it's most like a race bike.
Yeah, it's most like the bikes I already have. That's true. I mean, just look at it. It's got the only bike we saw there with drop handlebars.
Yeah, and the cost was around $4,000, I think, at the show.
Right. It was. It had a pretty powerful motor, but I don't think they would let you use it in a race, as the advertising implied. I thought that was kind of funny. The motor was very powerful. It peaked at 500 watts, which would mean that if I had this bike, I could finally keep up with Steve climbing.
I don't think you could keep up with Steve even with this bike.
Oh, come on. Oh, you don't. Oh, ye of little faith. Anyway, standard road bike components had Ultegra components on the back, 105 in the front, Shimano brakes.
And just look at it. It looks like a road bike.
Right. It's got very conventional geometry. That's important for a lot of bike racks where they rely on tubes to be in certain places.
Yes, good point.
Conventional bike geometry works well. Disc brakes, obviously, as a race type bike, no shocks.
Right.
There's the Yamaha motor mid-drive.
Yeah. Did we talk about the weight of it? I can't remember.
It was like about 51 pounds,
Okay.
I think. So it's very heavy for a race bike, but the motor kind of makes up for it. And here you can see me having a turn with the Road
You were
E.
loving that, weren't you?
Well, it was the most like what I'm used to
Right.
there at the e-bike show.
Right, so it's very comfortable for you because that's what you're used to.
Right. And I was really curious to see what 500 watts plus my own wattage would actually do. So I tried to come around in a sprint, but the track was kind of too small, and it just I would have caused an accident, so I didn't do it.
Yeah, but you were wanting to.
I wanted to. Anyway, that's the Road E from Giant.
All right, so those were the 5 e-bikes that caught our eye at the recent e-bike expo in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, now each one of them had something a little unique to offer, and any one of them I think would make a fine companion to bring along in your RV.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on what you're looking for.
Right. So now do come to our website. We'll have an accompanying article where we'll have some of the data that we found. We'll put a link below, and do check it out.
All right, and that's about it for us. Thanks for watching.
Bye.